there is a kind of general theme amongst certain polemical circles or certain circles where they argue about different things. One issue that often arises with these kinds of polemics is that they make people ignore or neglect the knowledge or the information that they should be pursuing in favor of taking a partisan approach that essentially glorifies their ignorance about certain issues, or they conveniently ignore certain things because of their agenda, let's say, and they focus on other things. And this leads to an approach which does not facilitate conversation in good faith. It does not facilitate seeking knowledge for the sake of seeking knowledge, or it does not facilitate seeking the truth for the sake of seeking the truth and seeking nuance and complexity where it applies, but rather it encourages an attitude that one should argue for the sake of their own belief or agenda, let's say. And that kind of belief becomes very dogmatic, where it takes precedence over everything else. And as a result of that, you ignore things which you don't like, you ignore pieces of information which you don't like, or you interpret them in a manner which is quite clearly a distortion or a misinterpretation. And on the other hand, you tend to focus on things which you agree with or that suit your agenda, but you don't necessarily take the time to think about them critically. As such, you end up in this kind of situation where you glorify your own ignorance of certain things and then you glorify your knowledge of certain minute details or certain minutiae and think that you've essentially won a debate or you won a whole argument because you know a lot about a certain thing, but really and truly, your ignorance about a topic is hidden from you and you haven't even realized how ignorant you are of a certain topic because you are so stuck in your partisan position that you think that your sort of agenda or belief or whatever is all that there is to the argument. And this is something that I used to do as well when I used to engage in certain arguments on certain online spaces, or I used to engage in very much a kind of partisan position, and I wouldn't seek, let's say, the nuance of a certain discussion. I would do the same thing as well. And I know the psychology that goes behind that because I've been in that same kind of intellectual position. But what I will say is that it doesn't fulfill you, it doesn't provide any sort of intellectual or spiritual fulfillment. And it doesn't increase you in knowledge or make you a better person, or it doesn't make you more intellectual as an individual. All it does is it just massages your ego as you supposedly win arguments, but you're not really learning anything. You've just adopted the same talking points, the same like 4 or 5 points to reiterate in every conversation, and you haven't really learned the complexities of the topic. And this isn't to say that arguments or debates aren't useful or they aren't part of scholarly discussion, but anybody who genuinely seeks to develop themselves in a scholarly and academic manner and seeks to develop their knowledge and seeks to become more knowledgeable about the world, their knowledge and their contributions will always shine through. Their sincerity to the art of learning will be remembered by people. And inevitably, the scholars who devote themselves to learning, no matter how controversial their positions may be, they are the ones who are always remembered as sincere in their learning. As for those who are partisans, or, they argue for the sake of arguing, not for the sake of attaining truth, and they simply make their whole career, let's say, about refutations and arguing with people and debating, they inevitably fade from the public memory. Because what are their contributions, well and truly? Have they contributed to the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of truth? Have they contributed to any discipline in a meaningful way? Or have they just spent their time arguing about some minutiae that nobody really cares about? As such, I think for people online who wish to get into certain academic discussions or learn about things, they should avoid arguments because arguments ultimately do not lead to the pursuit of knowledge and growth in their own scholarly pursuits, but rather one should genuinely engage in the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. And they will be the ones who will most benefit from it in comparison to those who simply seek to argue by learning.